Welcome back to the third and the final session of world literature. We started last time talking about challenges in teaching and learning world literature. So, while world literature offers extraordinary opportunities for cross-cultural understanding and inter our intellectual growth, it also presents significant pedagogical challenges that teachers and students must navigate thoughtfully. Acknowledging these challenges honestly enables a more ethical, inclusive, and effective approaches to understand or to studying global literary traditions. Pretending challenges do not exist doesn't make them disappear. It just means we do not address them consciously. Now let's go to language barriers and translation issues. Most world literature courses teach texts in translation, raising fundamental questions. How much is lost or transformed in translation? Can we truly understand poetry without reading it in the original language? Different translations of the same work can vary dramatically in tone, style, and interpretations. Moreover, some literary effects, wordplay, rhythm, cultural idioms may be untranslatable. Strategies compare multiple translations where possible. Read translators note and introductions acknowledge translation as interpretations rather than transparent window. Learn about source languages, literary traditions. Even if you can't read them, understanding how Chinese poetry works helps you read Chinese poetry in translation more thoughtfully. Now let's move to avoiding Eurocentric and colonial biases. Traditional work literature curricula often privilege European texts while tokenizing or exo exoticizing non-Western works, even well-intentional approaches risk imposing Western critical frameworks on texts from other traditions, missing cultural specific meaning and aesthetics. The very concept of world literature emerged from European colorism. Strategies include diverse voices and perspectives, study texts within power dynamics or within their cultural contexts, question canonical assumptions, examine power dynamics in literary production and circulation, seek out endangered and post-colonial scholarship. Read criticism by scholars from the cultures being studied, not just Western scholars studying other cultures. Now let's move to uh, encouraging inclusive and critical perspectives. Students bring different cultural backgrounds, reading experiences, and social positions to literary study, creating inclusive classrooms where all voices feel valued while maintaining rigorous critical standards requires intentional effort. Discussions must balance respect for cultural differences with critical examination of Texas ideologies, strategies, establish ground rules for respect dialogues, invite multiple interpretations, acknowledge subjectivity in reading, address problematic content directly, create space for marginalized perspectives, connect historical texts to contemporary issues. Show how literature remains relevant to current conversations about justice, identity, and power. The goal is rigorous critical thinking combined with cultural humanity and ethical awareness. Now let's move to additional challenges. Historical and cultural context. Understanding text from distant times and places requires substantial contextual knowledge that students may lack. Without this background, readers risk misunderstanding or projecting contemporary values into historical works. Canon formation, deciding which texts to teach involves power dynamics, who gets including and excluded, shapes our understanding of world literature itself. So historically, dead authors from colonial powers were favored. Now there is movement toward living authors previously colonized regions and marginalized identities, but every inclusion is an exclusion. Choosing to teach one text means not teaching another. These choices reflect and shape what we value. Now let's go to balancing breadth and depth. Covering multiple literary traditions risks superficial treatment while focusing deeply on fewer traditions limits global scope. Neither approach is perfect. Culture appropriation concerns how do we study and appreciate texts from cultures not our own without appropriating or misrepresenting them. This requires ongoing self reflection and cultural humility. We need to engage with literature from other cultures. That's the point of world literature. But we need to do so respectfully, acknowledging our limitations, listening to voices from those cultures, and avoiding treating other cultures as exotic objects for our consumption. Now let's move to quotes on ethical teaching. Teaching world literature ethically means acknowledging our limitations, remaining open to correction, certain marginalized voices, and viewing cultural references not as obstacle but as opportunity for growth. The goal is not mastery, but ongoing dialogue across differences. These challenges should not discourage world literature study, but rather inform it, making us more thoughtful, humble, and ethical readers. But engaging honestly with these complexities, we develop the cultural competencies necessary for meaningful intercultural understanding. Now let's move to resources for further study. Deepening your engagement with world literature requires accessing high quality resources beyond the required courses materials. The following curated section of Energy's digital platforms, scholarly journals, and multimedia resources will support your continued exploration of global literary traditions. These resources represent diverse perspectives and provide pathways for lifelong learning in world literature. I'm going to give you these not so mm, you use them all immediately, but so you know they exist when you need them. Bookmark this information, return to it throughout your studies and beyond. Now let's go to essential anthologies and critical editions. The Northern Anthology of World Literature, comprehensive six-volume collection spanning from ancient to contemporary periods, featuring careful selected translation, detailed introductions, and critical apparatus organized both chronologically and geographically to facilitate comparative study, strengths scholarly reader diverse representation, extensive contextual materials, recent post-colonial perspectives. Never or newer editions incorporate postcolonial criticism and theory. The Longman Anthology of World Literature, also 6 volumes, emphasizes cultural contexts and the thematic connections across traditions. It includes substantial selections from non-Western literatures with attention to women writers and marginalized voices. Uh, Now let's move to the long anthology of world literature, 6 volume series, emphasizing cultural contexts and thematic connections across traditions, includes substantial selections from non-Western literatures with attention to women writers and marginalized voices, strengths, cultural contextualization, generous excerpts, multimedia, companion website, comparative frameworks, organized to encourage cross-culture comparison. These are expensive, but your library has them, and they are valuable references throughout your literary education. Now let's go to the Prince source books and comparative literature, theoretical and methodological guide for comparative literature study featuring essays by leading scholars on translation, periodization, genre, and cross-cultural analysis, strengths, sophisticated theoretical frameworks, interdisciplinary approaches, current scholarly debates represents cutting edge thinking. This is more advanced, it's useful once you have some foundation and want to deepen theoretical understanding. Now let's move to Benjamin Classics series, extensive collection of individual world literature texts in accessible, affordable editions with scholarly introductions, notes, and updated translation. Covers works from ancient epics to modern novels across all major literary traditions, strengths, high quality translations, affordable pricing, detailed annotations, regular new editions, continually expanding coverage. If you're building a personal library, Benjamin Classics are excellent value. Their origin or their orange spines are iconic for a reason. They have made world literature accessible to general readers for decades. Now let's move to the digital platforms and online resources. Project Gutenberg have free access to over 70,000 literary works in multiple languages, including many world literature classics downloadable in various formats for online reading. World literature today, award-winning magazine publishing reviews, essays, and interviews focused on contemporary international literature, excellent for discovering new voices and current trends. Let's Hop daily literary websites featuring essays, reviews, and author profiles with strong international focus and diverse perspectives. Uh, some Thought Journal, online journal dedicated to literary translation, publishing fiction, poetry, and essays from around the world with multilingual content. Each issue features works from multiple languages and countries. If you're interested in translation specifically, this is the place. Now let's move to more digital resources. Columbia University's comprehensive resources for studying Dante's Divine Comedy with translation, um, commentaries, multimedia materials, and scholarly essays. Persuade's digital library, open source digital library, focus on ancient Greek and Latin texts with English translations, dictionaries, and scholarly tools. East Asian library resources. Major universities offer digital collections of Chinese, Japanese, and Korean literary texts with translation and cultural context. These specialized collections provide access to materials rarely available outside research libraries. If you are interested in East Asian literature, explore these university digital collections. They often include manuscripts, wood blocks, print, and rare editions alongside translations and scholarly commentary. Now let's move to scholarly journals for advanced study, comparative literature, leading journal, publishing cutting-edge scholarship on world literature, translation theory, and cross-cultural literary analysis, quarterly publication with rigorous peer review. World Literature Today publishes reviews, essays, and interviews on contemporary international literature with focus on works in translation and emerging voices. Journal of World Literature, interdisciplinary journal exploring theoretical and methodological issues in world literature studies, including questions of circulation, translation, and the canonization. Postcolonial studies, essential journal for understanding literary or literature from formerly or colonized regions, examining issues of identity, power, resistance, and cultural production. Translation review focuses specifically on literary translation with review of translated works, translator interviews, and essays on translation practice and theory. If you are interested in how texts move between languages and cultures, this journal illuminates the art and the challenges of translation. Now let's move to literary podcasts and audio resources. Enhance your learning through audio formats. The new books network features author interviews across richer categories. The Guardian Books podcast discusses international literary news and reviews in our time from BBC Radio explores classic literary works and movements. Poetry on Bounce if offers close readings of contemporary poetry. Lit Hub Radio presents conversations with authors and critics. These resources make literary engagement portable and accessible during commutes or exercise. They also model how to talk thoughtfully about literature, which can improve your own analytical vocabulary and discussion skills. Audio resources are particularly valuable for poetry, where hearing the sound and rhythm is essential to understanding the work. Now let's move to say that building a personal library of resources, both physical and digital, supports lifelong engagement within or with world literature. Start with anthologies for breadth, then pursue individual authors and traditions that captivate you. Combine scholarly journals for academic rigor with contemporary platforms for current voices. Most importantly, follow your curiosity. The best resources are those that inspire you to keep reading, questioning, and discovering. If something bores you, move on. Life's too short and literature too vast to force yourself through things that do not engage you. Now let's go to summary of key takeaways. As we conclude this exploration of world literature, let's synthesize the essential concepts, skills, and insights that form the foundation of your literary education. These takeaways represent not just knowledge acquired, but capabilities developed tools you will carry forward into future reading, thinking, and engagement with diverse cultural expressions. I want to summarize the major things you should take away from this course, this lasting value of what you've learned. World literature enriches global understanding. World literature enriches global understanding. Literature provides unparalleled access to diverse cultural perspectives, historical experiences, and ways of understanding human existence. Through reading across traditions, you develop cultural empathy, challenges in ethnocentric assumptions, and recognize both human university and the beautiful diversity. World literature transforms absent knowledge about other cultures into intimate understanding of lived experience, values, and worldviews. Reading Chona Achebe doesn't just teach you facts about Nigeria. It lets you experience Ego culture from within, understanding colonial disruption through personal stories, feel the complexity of cultural change. Now let's go to critical reading deepens appreciation. Moving beyond the passive consumption to active interpretation unlocks literature's full richness. Close reading reveals layers of meaning invisible to casual readers. Comparative analysis illuminates how different cultures approach similar themes while highlighting unique innovations, understanding historical and cultural contexts, prevents misreading while respecting texts' specificity. Literary devices aren't just technical features, they are tools authors use to shape meanings and emotional impact. A symbol isn't just there, it does something. A metaphor creates understanding, narrative structure affects how you experience the story emotionally and intellectually. Now, let's move to talking about communication skills enable scholarly dialogue. Sophisticated reading means little without ability to articulate insights persuasively. Strong thesis-driven essays demonstrate analytical thinking and evidence-based argumentation. Effective presentations engage audiences and communicate complex ideas clearly. Collaborative discussion deepens understanding through exchange of perspectives. These communication skills transcend literary study preparation. You or preparing you for professional and civic engagement requiring clear, persuasive expression. Whether you're writing business reports, presenting research, participating in community organizing, or simple having informed conversations about important issues, these skills serve you throughout life. Now let's move to the core competencies developed analytical skills. First, close reading and textual interpretation, identifying literary devices and their functions, contextual analysis, considering historical and cultural factors, comparative analysis across texts and traditions, critical evaluation of secondary sources, synthesis of multiple perspectives into coherent arguments, cultural competencies, awareness of diverse cultural values and worldviews, recognizing of translation's role in interpretation, understanding of historical contexts shaping literature, sensitivity to power dynamics and cultural representations, appreciation for artistic traditions beyond Western canon. These aren't just abstract skills, they shape how you think, read, and engage with the world. Now let's move to communication abilities. Academic essay writing with clear argumentation or representation with effective delivery, collaborative discussion and active listening, constructive peer review and feedback, integration of multimedia in presentations, proper documentation and citation practices, research skills, effective use of library databases and catalogs, evaluation of source credibility and relevance, digital literacy and accessible online resources, citation management and bibliographic organization, senses of scholarly sources in original analysis. Every one of these skills is transferable to other contexts, academic, professional, civic. This is why humanities education remains valuable even in an increasingly technological world. These are fundamentally human skills, thinking, communicating, understanding across difference. Now let's move to literary movements timeline, starting from ancient foundations, oral traditions, mythological narratives and early written epics established storytelling conventions still influential today, addressing timeless questions about mortality, heroism, and meaning. Enlightenment, romantic revolution, literary became vehicle for social critic, philosophical exploration, and celebration of individual creativity, establishing modern literary consciousness, medieval Renaissance exchange, cross-cultural dialogue enriched literary traditions as trade routes facilitated exchange of stories, forms, and aesthetic innovations across civilizations. Modern contemporary voices, decolorization and globalization amplified previously marginalized voices, um, diversifying world literature and challenging Western literary dominance while addressing urgent contemporary issues. Actually, Garcia Marquez's Adichie's writers from formerly colonized regions claiming authority to tell their own stories, transforming what counts as world literature. Now let's move to talk about world literature as a final quote about world literature. World literature is not simply a collection of great books from different countries. It's an ongoing conversation across cultures and centuries about what it means to be human, a conversation you are now equipped to join as an informed, critical, and cultural sensitive participant. These takeaways represent the beginning, not the culmination of your literary journal journey. The skills developed through the studies, world literature, critical thinking, cultural sensitivity, effective communication, analysis, rager extend far beyond the classroom. They prepare you for engaged citizenship in an interconnected um world. Professional success requiring cross-cultural competence and lifelong intellectual growth through continued reading and reflection. Literature's gift is not just knowledge about the world, but transformation of how you see yourself and others within it. Reading widely and thoughtfully changes you, expands your empathy, challenges your assumptions, enrich your inner life. Now let's move to call to action. Keep reading, keep questioning, keep connecting. World literature is not a subject to be mastered and set aside. It's an invitation to lifelong engagement with humanity's most profound expressions of creativity, wisdom, and imagination. The skills you've developed, the perspectives you've encountered, and the questions you've learned to ask are tools for navigating an increasingly interconnected world where cultural literacy is not optional but essential. The perspectives you have encountered from ancient Mesopotamia to contemporary Nigeria, from medieval Japan to romantic Europe, have expanded your sense of human possibility. Now let's move to talk about read beyond the classroom. Don't let your literary journey end with formal course books or coursework. Make reading a regular practice, scheduling dedicated time weekly for literary engagement. Explore contemporary voices alongside classics. Follow literary prizes like the International Booker, the Nobel Prize in Literature, or regional awards highlighting emerging writers. Visit independent bookstores championing international literature. Subscribe to literary magazines introducing you to writers you'd never encounter otherwise. Let curiosity guide your reading. Follow connections between texts, authors, and traditions that intrigue you. If you love the 100 Years of Solitude, explore other magical realist writers. If the tale of the Genji fascinated you, read more Heian Japanese literature. Let one book lead to another originally. Now let's go to engage with diverse voices actively. Seek out literatures from cultures, identities, and perspectives different from your own. Read women writers, LGBTQs, and authors, plus authors, indigenous storytellers, writers from the global south, and voices from marginalized communities whose stories have been historically suppressed or ignored. Ignored. Attend author readings, literary festivals, and cultural events. Join book clubs focused on international literature. Engage respectfully with difference, approaching unfamiliar perspectives with openness and the willingness to learn there rather than judgment or appropriation. If someone confuses you culturally, research it. If something challenges you assumptions, sit with that discomfort and think about why. Now let's move to foster empathy through storytelling. Literature's greatest gift is its capacity to build empathy, the imaginative ability to understand experiences vastly different from your own. Stories transport us into other consciousness, showing us the world through different eyes. This empathetic capacity is not just personally enriching, but politically and socially vital. If a world fractured by polarization, inequality, and conflict, literature offers means of bridging the divides, recognizing shared humanity, and understanding that no single perspective contains complete truth. Empathy doesn't mean agreement. You can understand someone's perspective without agreeing with it, but understanding why someone think differently is the foundation of productive dialogue. Now let's move to connect literature to contemporary issues. Recognize that literature is not escapism, but engagement with the most pressing questions of human existence. Classic texts illuminate contemporary challenges. Ancient epics speak to questions of leadership and power. Medieval works explore religious pluralism and coexistence. Enlightenment texts debate reason versus passion, and modern literature grapples with identity, migration, and globalization. Read literature in dialogue with current events, seeing how stories help us understand and respond to our complex present moments. Stories humanize abstract issues. Climate change statistics are important, but climate fiction helps you feel what it means. Um, Immigration policy matter, but immigrant narratives help you understand lives experiences behind the policies. Now let's move to practical steps for continued engagement. Build your personal library. Collect the books that matter you to or that matter to you. Creating a physical or digital library reflecting your literary journey. Reread favorite texts, discovering new meanings with exchanged perspectives. Share your reading, discuss books with friends, family, and online communities. Recommend favorites, write reviews, start a blog or social media account dedicated to literary exploration. Um, then support literary culture. Purchase books from independent bookstores, attend literary events, subscribe to literary journals, support writers through crowdfunding and patronage platforms like Patreon. The literary ecosystem depends on reading who actively support it. If you want good literature to continue existing, support the infrastructure that creates it. Now let's go to create your own stories. Let reading inspire writing, keep a journal, attempt creative writing, experiment with different forms, engage with literature as a creator, deepens your understanding as a reader, mentor others, share your love or literature with younger students, lead reading groups, volunteer for literacy programs, teaching others reinforces your own learning while spreading literature's transformative power in reading the literature of the world. We do not merely learn about other cultures, we become more fully human. Otherwise, each story read, each perspective encountered expands our sense of possibility. It challenges you our assumption and reminds us that the human experiences is infinitely richer than any one life can encompass. This is literature's deepest promise. You become more fully a human through engaging with diverse human expressions. Your one life is limited. You experience one gender, one culture, one historical moment, one set of circumstances. Literature potentially expands your vicarious experience. So, 7,000 plus languages spoken worldwide, each with unique literary traditions, waits to be exposed through translation. 2 million plus books published annually across the globe, offering endless opportunities to or for discovery and learning. Stories to discover. The journey through world literature never ends. There are always new voices, perspectives, and narratives to encounter. Your education in world literature represents not an ending but beginning. You now possess the tools, knowledge, and the critical awareness to engage meaningful with global literary traditions. The question is not whether you have learned enough, but how you will use what you've learned. Will you continue reading across cultures? Will you let literature shapes your understanding of the world? Will you share stories, transformative power with others? The choices and the opportunities, or the choice and the opportunity is yours. The world stories await. Turn the page and keep reading. Oh, thank you for engaging with World Literature. Thank you for bringing your curiosity, your questions, your perspectives to these texts and discussions. Literature lives through readers like you, people willing to engage seriously with stories across cultures and centuries, to think deeply about what texts mean and why they matter, to prioritize and to participate in the great human conversation about how we should live and what makes life meaningful. The world needs thoughtful, empathetic, culturally literate people who can bridge the differences, think critically, communicate effectively, and engage respectfully with diversity. World literature helps develop these capacities. Go forth and read widely, question deeply, connect genuinely, and share the transformative power of stories with others. The world's literature is yours to explore. Enjoy the journey.